of indigenous peoples and local communities and the enterprises. So it's very exciting to see also the gradation of cooperation and process from local to national, and then linking that to regional processes to be able to also reach the market with the benefits still quite intact for communities to really gain the value from their trade. And now we heard about Indonesia and Vietnam and also regional level, and we move on to another country. And I'm very pleased to welcome Sanat Bek Luldashev from Kaflu. Sanat Bek Luldashev graduated with a Master's of Business Administration from the Academy of Public Administration under the President of the Kyrgyz Republic, where he did his research and agroforestry role in sustainable development of regions of the Kyrgyz Republic, and previously had a bachelor's in banking and finance from Cyprus. Since 2016, he has been working as project specialist and program coordinator in the Kyrgyz Association of Forest and Land Users, or KAFLU, a member of the Asian Farmers Association for Sustainable Development. He implements projects about sustainable land and forest governance, certification of forest products, and assists in promoting agroforest products of the local communities. He is currently also working as a facilitator of a platform on national land coalitions. And from an early age, he became interested in the economic development of agriculture and rural regions, where to this day, his family is still engaged. And so welcome, Sanat Bek. You may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for a nice introduction. Dear colleagues, dear participants, as I've been introduced, my name is Sanat Bek, and I would like to greet all of you on behalf of the Kaflu and the forest communities of Kyrgyzstan. And to take this opportunity, I would like to gratitude all participants to dedicating your time attending our site events. It's community speaks. Despite that, here it's a very late time, and thanks our AFA for inviting me as a speaker here. And first of all, I would like to give a brief information about Kyrgyzstan. Then I will move to information about Kaflu, about my association, and smoothly we'll shift to information about our forests and with its challenges. And I want also to share our experience on implementing community forest management at our mountain forest community, Kogoy. How we can next, please. Yeah. As I said, I'm from Kyrgyzstan, and Kyrgyzstan is located in Central Asia, and the total area of the country is approximately 200,000 square kilometers, and it's a mountainous country where the 90% of the country is covered by the mountains, and where the 66% of population lives in the rural areas. And we have 7 regions, 40 districts, and 453 ILMX. Kaflu is a voluntarily non-profit organization which is established in 2010. Today we are uniting more than 8,000 farmers, so forest users and land users of the country, and we have our own trademarks, Silk Road Taste and Silk Road Herbs. At the back you can see also our products also. Next, please. As a network, association works with different international organizations, and we are the member of the different organizations such as UCN, FSC, AFA, ILC, and ICCA Consortium, and etc. Yeah, Kyrgyz Republic belongs to the low forested area. Only 6% of the total area of the country it's covered by the forests, and forests are mainly represented by mountain plantations as a quite diverse and rich valuable species. And about 90% of the forests are located in a high altitude. And forest performs important ecological, economic, and social health improving functions. So forest funds plots can be provided for use by organization citizens on the lease basis from 5 years up to 50 years. And there are 4 types of forests in Kyrgyzstan: walnut fruit forest, coniferous, and juniper, and floodplain forests. In forest use, we have plenty of challenges or problems. First of all, it's an imperfection of the legislative base, conflict situation, especially in management and use of forest users, forest resources between the pasture users and foresters, and low standards of living of local communities, insufficient knowledge, limited access to the credited resources, low awareness of forests, about the forest organic productions, and low level of conservation and protection of forests and biodiversity, lack of mechanism for public participations, and lack of management plans, and awareness of low level of capacity of local communities. Next, please. Yeah, despite that, despite the fact that Kyrgyz Republic belongs to the Spacely Forest areas, over the 1 million people live in or near the forest funds, and there are about 29,000 family forest users or tenants on the state forest funds, and most of them are the forest users on the walnut forest in Jalabat region. The main activities of the local communities is forest use and management, as harvesting non-timber forest products such as nuts, berries, mushrooms, medical herbs, and grazing and beekeeping. And their well-being directly depends on the forest resources. Walnut forests are more special and anthropogenic impact to ensure the environmental safety and improve the social economical well-being of the territory. It's necessary to involve local communities in conservation of forest ecosystems. Yeah, in order to involve the local communities, KAFLU implemented introduced community forest management 2 years ago. Can we go next, please? In the process of implementing community forest management, we selected a community which is located in the remote area. It's in the Jalabat region. They are located inside of the walnut forests. And to this date, KAFLU, with the help of different international organizations, helps development of approval of the charter and registration with the authorized body of justice, and enhancing the capacity, especially the community members, regarding the sustainable management and use of forest ecosystems, carried out the forest management forks to successful work of the community, and developed the community management plan for Kogoi for following 5 and 10 years, and provided technical assistance by planting also trees. And at this time, the community became more sustainable, and after the different capacity building activities, now they they are able to also to write to apply for different grants, and first agreement with regarding grants was signed last year. Also, KAFLU is paying more attention to the promoting their products, especially marketing and value chains, and also we assist them to receive the national organic certificates, and we are planning to also to help them, to assist them to receive their organic certificates. It's international organic regarding the international standards. Yeah, it's a result of implementing. They created 3 hectares of plantations and planted over the 600 pieces of seedlings, and they are implementing actively agroforestry systems. They grow between the growing the potatoes, and also we assist them to with the water pipelines, and they now are working according to the agreement between community and forest units. Yeah, and the main results here is they now have the access to the 1,045 hectares of the forest area, which is responsibly now protected by the local community. And forest ecosystems on 800 hectares are efficiently, rationally managed and used according to the development forest management plan, and fruit seedlings were planted, and capacity of the members of Kogoi and other stakeholders were enhanced. In conclusion, I want to add that the forest resources of Kyrgyzstan have the potential to increase their contribution to the development of the country economy, including the improvement of the welfare of local population and biodiversity. In this regard, we believe that the involvement of local communities in sustainable management and use of the forest ecosystems through the introduction of community forest management is the main mechanisms for preserving the biodiversity of forest ecosystems in Kyrgyzstan and improvement of welfare of the rural population. Yeah, thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Sanatbek. It's also nice to see individuals that are coming from forest and farm communities and regions to actually being part of the assistance process and the organizing process, and also taking leadership in the organization, such as in the case of Sanatbek. And thank you also, Sanatbek, for sharing with us some of the samples of your products. And so here we are enjoying the snacks at the back. For those that are here who haven't tasted them yet, please go and have some. Apologies for those that are online who may not be able to enjoy, but I think Sanatbek's group is already trying to market these products, so hopefully it will also reach our countries. So I will introduce our next speaker, Giovanni Reyes. Giovanni is a Sagada-born Kankanay from the Western Mountain Province in the Cordillera Administrative Region, and he is also am I heard? Okay, because it's showing in the screen. Unmute myself. So as I was saying, Giovanni is from the Cordillera region in the Philippines, and currently is the president of the Philippine ICCE consortium called Bukluran, and he is also a member of the Indigenous Peoples Advisory Group Global Environmental Facility and in the US, and former Global Council member of the ICCE consortium and currently an honorary member. He holds a master's degree in the School of Urban and Regional Planning and a bachelor's in development studies at the University of the Philippines. Giovanni, may I invite you to share your experience, Bukluran's experience in marketing during the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Femi, and good afternoon to everyone. This is about the marketing experience of indigenous peoples who are members of our network during the severe impact of pandemic in the Philippines, especially during the early months of 2020. First, the Philippine ICCA Consortium, or Bukluran, is a network of 16 indigenous peoples communities. We are spread in 7 ethnographic regions of the Philippine archipelago. And our market story is a segment of the whole counterpoint to the pandemic. But briefly, let me bring you where we are coming from so as to give a context. The picture that you see here forms the remaining forests in the Philippines. The Philippine indigenous peoples inspire hope for biodiversity because the furious pace of deforestation occurring at a rate of 1 tree cut down every 3 minutes from the 1970s to the 1990s stopped at the very doorstep of indigenous peoples' territories. So you can see here that the remaining forests in the country of 6 million hectares, down from 23 million hectares, are mostly located in the territories of indigenous peoples. Press the red one. That's the area where indigenous peoples live in the red one. And these are governed under traditional governance systems. The indigenous peoples provide, the lands of indigenous peoples provide 85% of key biodiversity areas in the country, and it breathes life and meaning to government's protected area systems, the one in blue. And this has put the Philippines as the 5th in the number of plant species in the world's flora, and it places the Philippines as one of the 18 mega biodiverse countries of the world by hugely contributing to 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity. So the resources to meet human survival is there, but for how long? Without forests, no water. No water, no plants. No plants, no food. No food, you go hungry. When you go hungry, you get sick. That's the role of our ancestral domains. So therefore, any threat to our ancestral lands or indigenous people's territories would be a threat to national food security. The pandemic added a layer of threat to the challenges that indigenous peoples face, including the loss of livelihood and income. And some were tempted to sell or mortgage portions of their lands, which is prohibited under customary law and under national laws, just to meet the requirements of distance learning. And so let me bring you to the pilot sites that we chose. Next, please. We included we included 4 sites to cover one forestal land area in the northwest, land and seascape ecosystem, a mangrove, and an island ecosystem in the Mangyans of Mindoro. The 4 sites alone can supply water to hundreds of thousands of hectares of lowland agricultural lands that in turn supply rice to millions of Filipinos. And this is besides the capacity of our forest cover of these forest areas in preventing zoonotic diseases from leaking out. We assisted in market expansion by shifting from rural side streets marketing to middle and upper income class marketing in the national capital region. So these are the 4 model sites. And for honey farmers in the northwest of that area in the Philippines, a soft loan to purchase 2 motor vehicles with sidecars, which we call tricycles, enabled them to transport products at source, very dangerous forest areas. And to transfer from that area to the town center is very difficult because of the rough terrain and to the town centers. And then later we sought the trucking companies engaged in food transportation from provinces to cities to carry or haul our products from the village to the cities. So we engage in these trucking companies that are engaged in transporting vegetables from the rural areas to Manila. And so they will include the products that our IB communities were producing. So in the midst of pandemic, where the world was at a standstill, the national economy was at a standstill, we were transporting 35 boxes with 24 bottles per box, or 840 bottles of honey a day, or 5,880 bottles a week, which means that our IP farmers engaged in honey production were on the move, and they were continuously receiving income on a weekly basis, at least 50,000 a week, while the economy was at a standstill, while businesses were collapsing, while there were no market whatsoever near the region where they produce the honey. And informal settlers in cities, particularly high school students, we employed them to process the honey products according to marketing standards and according to buyer expectations. So here you have a honey overflowing of honey produced from an IP community going to the city and then being packaged by members from informal settlers who were themselves engaged in, they have to buy cell phones in order to meet the criteria or requirements for distance learning. The same appeared promising with our Aita brothers in Bataan, with an initial sale of 200 kilos of bananas and sweet potato during the initial early months. So that kind of fend off the impact or the immediate impact of lack of income and lack of livelihood. Avocados for the island ecosystems of Mindoro. The island was ravaged by 2 typhoons prior to the pandemic in December of 2019, and it was followed by this COVID-19, and that is apart from the persistent armed conflict that has been occurring in the area, which prevented mobility, and mobility was problematic really. So you find there natural and human disasters that how do you wriggle through in this difficulty, in this time of difficulty? And the available products at that time to at least fend off the impact of pandemic was to harvest the available fruits of avocados. And we were able to sell 1.5 tons or 1,500 kilos of avocados, translatable to 120,000 pesos, to at least initially respond to the lack of income in the community. So products from the Northeast facing the Pacific are as diverse. And given this transfer of products at the time, we reached out to the Office of the Vice President of the Philippines to partner under her Lift Lives program, even as we developed Indigenous Peoples Marketing Operation Manual to be translated in local language that Indigenous peoples can understand. In conclusion, that experience of hardship and marketing demonstrate Indigenous peoples' resilience in the time of pandemic. It demonstrates nature's role on local livelihood and income, while at the same time enlightening urban dwellers of the high quality nutrients of locally sourced food. This is not possible without Indigenous people's control and access to the resources, and determined largely on account of their traditional knowledge systems. Finally, as experienced, marketing can be done through our forthcoming IP Academy, Indigenous Peoples Academy. We can do that with the zeal of an entrepreneur, with the equity of an egalitarian, and with the conscience of an ecologist. Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanni. That was well said. You yourself have captured your main points and how Indigenous communities are both, well, they're showing their self-survival techniques and approaches. And indeed, they are resilient when they have their resources in their hands, they have their ancestral domains in their possession, and they can thrive even in the case of a pandemic. So thank you for that sharing, and it gives us optimism and really inspiring. I then move on to our last speaker. Actually, they are two of them, because our main speaker, Noreri Tungmentong, she is a chief of the Wai Kang village in Thailand. She belongs to the Karen Indigenous group, and she is one of the prominent Indigenous women leaders in Thailand. She is actively engaging on women's issues, promotion of Indigenous knowledge, and sustainable natural resource management at local and country levels. She will be speaking in her Indigenous language, and she will be aided by Pirawan Wangnitisatapon. Is that correct? And she's also from the Karen Indigenous group and currently an environment program officer of the Asia Indigenous Peoples Pact. So I'll let you begin, Noreri.
ค่ะผมมือเชเปอร์นะคะสวัสดีค่ะชื่อนอเอรีนะคะเราก็จะมาแนะนำนะคะว่าผู้หญิงชนเผ่าของประเทศไทยนะคะเรามีอยู่หลายกลุ่มแต่ว่าวันนี้นะคะเราก็จะมาพูดถึงบทบาทของผู้หญิงปากเกยอนะคะ
Greeting everyone. My name is Noeri. I'm representing the Karen Indigenous group, or we call ourselves Pakayo. Even though there are different group of indigenous people in Thailand, but today I'm going to present about Pakayo people in Thailand.
ค่ะอันนี้สไลด์ต่อไปนะ
Next slide, please.
ค่ะอันนี้จะพูดถึงชุมชนบ้านห้วยข้างนะคะที่ตัวเออยู่นะคะเราก็มีพื้นที่นะคะที่ประมาณ10,000 ไร่นะคะที่เราดูแลโดยพลังของชุมชนนะคะที่นั่นเรา10,000 ไร่เนี่ยเราสามารถจำแนกป่านะคะเป็นป่าใช้สอยป่าที่อยู่อาศัยป่าพื้นที่ทำกินแล้วก็ป่าอนุรักษ์นะคะป่าอนุรักษ์นะคะ 60% นะคะ 60% เนี่ยเป็นป่าอนุรักษ์ที่เป็นความเชื่อด้วยแล้วก็เป็นของชุมชนนะคะที่อนุรักษ์มาตั้งแต่บรรพชนนะคะ
I would like to share about our forest management by our community people, the collective work. We able to manage 1,600 hectares in our forest area, and 60% is a protected area. We are using the land in different category.
Please use your microphone, Pete. You can share, yeah.
So there are the forests that we can use. There are the forests that conserve based on our beliefs and practices. And there are also the farming area and residential area, which is more than 50% is protected by our indigenous knowledge and beliefs.
ค่ะรูปภาพที่เห็นในต้นไม้นะคะที่เป็นกระบอกไม้ไผ่นะคะปากเกยอเรียกว่าเดปอเนี่ยคือการอนุรักษ์นะคะต้นไม้เพื่อให้มีการผูกพันกับคนนะคะตั้งแต่เกิดนะคะแล้วก็เอาสะดือของเด็กนะคะไปผูกกับใส่ในกระบอกไม้ไผ่ไปผูกกับต้นไม้ปากเกยอเรียกว่าโต้เดปอเนี่ยไม่สามารถที่จะตักได้นะคะก็ถือว่าเป็นการอนุรักษ์ป่าผ่าความเชื่อของปากเกยอ
You can see the picture below is represent the relationship of human and nature, where the indigenous current group, we call this tree is Depo2. The belief that this tree, they will put the umbilical cord of the newborn baby, and no one allowed to cut down this tree. Because that is related to the soul and spirit of the baby. So this is one of the traditional practice, like based on our belief that nature and human are part of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide.
ค่ะป่าเป็นชีวิตของพวกเรานะคะพวกเราที่อยู่ในที่นั่นนะคะมีการพืชพันธุ์ป่า 90 ถึง 100% นะคะป่าเราสามารถหาสมุนไพรได้จากป่าเราสามารถหาของกินนะคะพืชพันธุ์เห็ดตามฤดูกาลต่างๆรวมถึงเราได้จากป่าแล้วก็เราต้องมีการเคารพแล้วก็เส้นไหว้นะคะเป็นช่วงหรือว่าเป็นตามฤดูนะคะของฤดูกาลนั้นๆนะคะแล้วก็เป็นป่าที่มีการแลกเปลี่ยนการศึกษาการถ่ายทอดองค์ความรู้ควบคู่ไปด้วย
So forest is our life because 90 to 100% we depend on the forest. The forest is sort our good and well-being because you can find the source of the food as well as the herbal medicine that taking care of the community. That also related to our spiritual and also this is the learning space for our young generation as well as provide the opportunity for the outsider to learn from us. Next slide.
ค่ะจากที่เรายังไม่พอนะคะในการทำอนุรักษ์แล้วก็เราไปใช้ป่าก็เป็นพื้นที่เศรษฐกิจของผู้หญิงชนเผ่าที่อยู่ในที่นั่นด้วยโดยเฉพาะผู้หญิงนะคะที่นั่นเราก็จะมีการทำธุรกิจนะคะนี่ก็เป็นเชซูโมนะคะที่เป็นโลโก้นะคะเป็นเชซูโมเนี่ยเป็นสัญลักษณ์ของผู้หญิงปากเกยอนะคะที่มีการใช้สีแล้วก็ลวดเดยแล้วก็กาวาสีแต่ละตัวนะคะของเขาซึ่งมีความหมายที่ผูกพันกับทรัพยากรธรรมชาติสิ่งแวดล้อมรวมถึงแสงอาทิตย์ดินน้ำป่าด้วยอยู่ในนี้
So apart from the conservation, we also using the natural resources sustainably. Here we would like to present the women group that we are gathered together to form the Chesumo group. This is the logo of our group that represent the relation of land, water, sun, different color also represent different meaning. So this one is really represent our women work, no? So in current they call Chesumo.
ซึ่งสิ่งเหล่านี้เราก็ได้ไปขึ้นทะเบียนนะคะเป็นวิสาหกิจชุมชนโดยเฉพาะช่วงสถานการณ์โควิดเด็กเยาวชนนะคะที่ไปอยู่ในตัวเมืองเล็กน้อยเขาก็กลับมาใช้ชีวิตอยู่ในชุมชนเพื่อที่จะทำการประชาสัมพันธ์นะคะผ่านออนไลน์แล้วก็ Facebook ต่างๆนะคะเราก็ให้เด็กเยาวชนนะคะเข้ามามีบทบาทในวิสาหกิจชุมชนของเราด้วย
Our group also has registered under the community enterprise and the young generation who study in the city, they also return back and helping us for the social media campaign in promoting our product.
แล้วก็การที่เราได้ผลิตภัณฑ์จากป่านะคะเราก็มีองค์ความรู้ภูมิปัญญาในการหาสีตามฤดูกาลต่างๆนะคะโดยเฉพาะการหาสีจากเปลือกไม้เราจะหาสียังไงไม่ให้สีหรือว่าต้นไม้ต้นนี้เนี่ยตายนะคะเราจะต้องไปเรียนรู้ที่ชุมชนห้วยอีกข้างนะคะไม่สามารถจะบอกได้วันนี้นะคะ
We also holding the knowledge how to collect and use the natural resources. Just example to find the different color and the different season you can find different color and also different tree bark. No, I cannot explain you today. You have to come to my community to learn. Then I will tell you what kind of color that you can get from the forest.
แล้วก็ลวดลายต่างๆนะคะที่ปรากฏในบนเสื้อผ้านะคะแต่ละชิ้นนะคะมันเป็นลวดลายที่มีความหมายแล้วก็ลวดลายที่มีประวัติศาสตร์การบอกเล่าแล้วก็สืบทอดถ่ายทอดกันมาถึงปัจจุบัน
The pattern that you are seeing here is not just happening like recently, but it's the story that's been telling and passed down to generation, different pattern giving different meaning. And it's until now because we able to transfer our knowledge to our young generation. Next, please.
ค่ะจากที่เรามีองค์ความรู้เหล่านี้นะคะเราก็มีการพัฒนาเป็นนวัตกรรมขึ้นมานะคะจากใบไม้เปลือกไม้ให้สีหรือว่ารากไม้เราก็มามีป่าไม้ตามฤดูกาลนะคะป่าไม้ที่เราให้สีเนี่ยจะมีเฉพาะฤดูฝนนะคะฤดูแล้งเนี่ยเราไม่สามารถที่จะทำได้เนาะเหล่านี้ต่างๆเนี่ยก็เป็นองค์ความรู้อย่างหนึ่งเพื่อที่จะให้ผู้หญิงที่นั่นเนี่ยค่ะอยู่การใช้ชีวิตอยู่ในท่ากลางป่าเขาสามารถที่จะใช้ทรัพยากรธรรมชาตินะคะดูแลสุขภาพตัวเองแล้วก็เ เป็นมิตรกับสิ่งแวดล้อมนะคะในการทำสีธรรมชาติ
Apart from our traditional product that you see earlier, they are also like innovative in using the different source like leaves. These are, you can collect only the rainy season, and it's also giving you different colors. So this kind of work like is giving the women to able to take care, like to get the income generation, and also they're able to live in the community. And this one is not only concerned for the income, but also considering the health, which is friendly to the environment, so that is benefit for both human and nature.
อันนี้ก็เป็นหัตถกรรมของกลุ่มเชซุโมะนะคะที่โชว์มาเมื่อกี้นะคะ
So those are our sample of the product that we are producing currently, no?
ค่ะข้อท้าทายนะคะเราก็มีข้อท้าทายอยู่หลายๆข้อนะคะข้อท้าทายเกี่ยวกับการที่เราอยู่ในพื้นที่ป่าตอนที่เราเกิดมาเราโตมานะคะพอมาตอนนี้เนี่ยเรารู้สึกว่าพื้นที่ตัวนี้เนี่ยกลายเป็นป่าสงวนแล้วก็ป่าอุทยานเรารู้สึกว่าเราไม่มีความมั่นคงในที่ดินนะคะ
There are also challenges. The first main key is the land insecurity, because we don't have the land ownership over the land we are born now. Most of our Indigenous people land are like natural reserve area or conservation area.
แล้วก็การตลาดนะคะการตลาดที่ไม่เป็นธรรมนะคะต่อผู้หญิงชนเผ่าพื้นเมืองโดยเฉพาะผ้าของชนเผ่าพื้นเมืองนะคะสามารถที่มีโคดที่การนำตลาดที่เป็นอุตสาหกรรมนะคะมาทำเป็นลวดลายแล้วก็ทำที่เร็วขึ้นแล้วก็สามารถที่จะไปแกะลายได้ง่ายขึ้น
In terms of the trading, also we find we experience the unfair trading, because the price of the product is not how to say determined by us, but is determined by the outsider. And of our traditional knowledge also being misused or being pirated, like our pattern, those things being printed by the machine. So those is produced cheaper price, and we could not sell our original products.
แล้วก็ข้อช่องว่างระหว่างนโยบายกฎหมายของแต่ละประเทศนะคะไม่เอื้อนะคะกับคนที่อยู่ในป่าแล้วก็การใช้ทรัพยากรจัดดินน้ำป่านะคะก็เลยมีช่องว่างอยู่หลายๆอย่างหลายๆครั้งบางครั้งการดำรงชีวิตเหล่านี้เนี่ยมันก็เกิดความซับซ้อนยุ่งยากขึ้น
And another challenge is also our national law or policy is also not really encourage the people who live in the forest easily, because there are some restrictions that you're not able to access to the natural resources to collect the like non-timber products. Next, please.
ค่ะข้อเสนอแนะนะคะก็ผู้หญิงชนเผ่านะคะเราก็มีองค์ความรู้ภูมิปัญญานะคะแล้วก็มีหลายๆอย่างที่เรามีนะคะสามารถที่จะมีเป็นการทำให้องค์ความรู้เหล่านี้เนี่ยทำให้มาเกิดและก็เคารพในสิทธิของผู้หญิงมากขึ้นนะคะเพื่อที่จะให้ผู้หญิงสามารถดำรงชีพได้แล้วก็สามารถที่จะดูแลปกป้องป่าของตัวเองได้
So my recommendation for this, first I would like to get the recognized on the role of Indigenous women, as well as our knowledge contributing to conservation and sustainable use of the natural resources. Okay. And also women can determine their life when they are able to in the center of decision making.
แล้วก็เข้าถึงกองทุนแล้วก็เงินทุนสนับสนุนที่เป็นธรรมด้วยนะคะบางอย่างเงินทุนที่เข้ามาอาจจะไม่ค่อยเหมาะสมกับวิถีชีวิตนะคะก็เลยทำให้พวกเราไม่ได้รับทุนนะคะในการสนับสนุนแล้วก็ต่อยอดกิจกรรมที่อยู่ในชุมชนนะคะ
And they also need the financial support, and the financial support should be like cultural sensitive, and also not too bureaucratic, so that we can able to access to the credit.
แล้วก็เป็นพื้นที่ศึกษาเรียนรู้นะคะในอนาคตนะคะอาจจะต้องพัฒนาเป็นหลักสูตรนะคะในการเรียนการสอนด้วยในอนาคตค่ะ
And also to keep the knowledge moving and alive, we need the intergeneration learning. So we should have like a local curriculum, and the young generation can involve on this to pass down our knowledge and good practice to the next generation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Noreri and P for that. Oh, you forgot to show and tell your products that you also brought with you today, and you may want to maybe I will just move the camera for our online.
Show from here. You can move. Yeah.
Thank you, P and Noreri. Indeed, there are creative and ingenious self-support strategies of Indigenous peoples and Indigenous women. So I think that they really should be supported. And you have their product Chesumo. So let's not forget that. Now I invite my colleague Mylene Makabuhay, who will lead us on a discussion, a question and answer portion. Maybe Mylene, you can come. You can also come here. I will introduce you briefly. Mylene is the coordinator for the Youth and Land Rights Agenda of the Asian Farmers Association for Sustainable Rural Development, or AFA. She has been working in the fields of environmental management, public health, sustainable agriculture, and youth empowerment since 2011. Mylene holds an MSc in Environment and Development from the University of Leeds and an MSc in Environmental Science from the Philippines. Mylene, you can come here and lead us to that question and answer portion of our session.
Thank you, Ms. Femi, and good evening, everyone. I hope that you have been energized by the very informative set of presentations that we just had, as well as the local delicacies that was served to you. I hope that you enjoyed them. Now, it's everyone's turn to ask clarificatory questions to all of our speakers. So please feel free to go to the mic at the middle of the room and introduce yourself by mentioning your name and your organization and the speaker who you want to address the question to. Thank you. Of course, our online participants, please feel free to join in on the fun. Thank you. Any takers? All right, so please.
Thank you. Latia Lipper, Thunen Institute of Forestry, Germany. I think my question would address to the Philippines, but I'm very sorry that I may not be able to speak, pronounce your name correctly. You mentioned about the northern heath that is sell at the market every day, and there is a kind of informal labor that used to transport. Is there any kind of social security support from the government? Because this kind of informal employment, they will not have any social protection or anything that can really secure them for their employment. Is
the neighbors of our community were accepted as part of the packaging team because they also form some sort of security to the place where we do the packaging. And these are non-indigenous peoples in the cities. They come from informal settlers, and they are high school students. And because the pandemic required tablets and cell phones for distance learning, which they did not have, they work for at least 4 hours to 5 hours a day. At 250 pesos per day, with 4 alternating equivalent to 8 employees. So they work to transfer the honey from its original bottle to a new package or what you call a new bottle to meet the expectation of the buyers. And so the profits were used to provide them the necessary communications equipment and tablets in order to meet the required distance learning rules.
So this is just a kind of temporary job.
It is, yes, yeah.
Okay.
No taxes, no, just give them simply the money.
So that means once they get the tablet, they can stop working.
We chose especially these children whose parents, whose businesses, like in the tricycle drivers who have to daily work. It collapsed, and so we chose them, these children of these tricycle drivers, to work for the packaging of the honey.
Thank you very much to our participant and to Mr. Giovanni. We have a question/comment from the chat, and we have here Diana to read it. Diana.
I will be reading the question from Mr. Roger Garinga from the Philippines. His comment is, as usual, market is not that easy to navigate. Are there any plans towards government interventions? And I believe that his question is directed to any of the panelists who may want to answer or speak to the comment that he had just mentioned. Thank you. Oh, the question is for Nora Eri.
Okay, so the question is for Nora Eri.
ค่ะถ้าพูดถึงกลไกการตลาดนะคะภาครัฐน่ะเขาก็พยายามที่จะเป็นหน่วยงานหรือว่าองค์กรเครือข่ายนะคะที่ทำงานภาคประชาสังคมนะคะพยายามที่จะสร้างพื้นที่ให้กับพวกเรานะคะให้เหมือนกับว่าสร้างการตลาดในช่วงโควิด -19 นะคะแต่ว่าในต้องเข้าใจว่าระบบหรือว่าบริบทของชุมชนนะคะมันไม่เอื้อนะคะกับการต้องใช้เทคโนโลยีหรือว่าการต้องใช้สื่อสารอะไรต่างๆนะคะก็ทำให้โครงการเหล่านั้นมันไม่เอื้อกับผู้หญิงที่อยู่ในพื้นที่ที่ไม่มีสัญญาณอินเทอร์เน็ตไม่มีสัญญาณอะไรต่างๆนะคะก็เลยทำให้กลไกเหล่านั้นมันไม่ตอบโจทย์กับผู้หญิงที่นั่นนะคะ
Of course, the government agency or local authority, they also try to support in terms of marketing. But the challenges is for the community people who are living in the remote area. You could not access to the internet. So this kind of, how to say, the promotion opportunity could not be accessed by the local people who really live far away from the city. Yeah.
คือเหมือนกับว่ามาให้ความรู้พัฒนาศักยภาพเหมือนกับว่าเสร็จแล้วแต่ว่าทิศทางของการตลาดเนี่ยมันคือไม่ไปเนาะเหมือนกับว่าพัฒนาศักยภาพให้แล้วคุณจะต้องขายต่อที่ไหนเนี่ยก็ควรจะต้องหาช่องทางเองอย่างเงี้ยค่ะ
And even though they conduct like kind of capacity building, but in the end you are the one who have to find the market by yourself.
ขอบคุณค่ะ
Okay, thank you very much, Nora, Eri, and P. And maybe our other speakers would also like to add any input from for Sir Roger's question. I think Sanat Beck.
Yes, we understand that marketing is not easy, especially in our case. We mainly promoting the products of our local communities. It's a huge value chain, especially, and in order to because we mainly we are trying to export to the out of the country because. And to have a better value chain, and we have a good intervention with government, and because without government support, we cannot export our products and to sell them.
Thank you very much, Sanat Beck. We now move on to the next question. Anyone? Okay, yes, please go to the center. Yes. Okay, Miss Esther, and then the lady at the back. You first, the lady at the back. Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed all the presentations, though I was a bit late. But I have a question for, I think was Philippines, where the indigenous people really activated their market system and came up with new approaches. I have a question because in Africa during the pandemic, many people moved from the cities to the rural areas. So I'm just wondering if the same happened in all the countries, and if that happened, did it affect their use of the forest? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Giovanni?
It is quite the opposite in the Philippines, because the indigenous peoples who were based in the cities returned back to their home villages. We were facing at least two challenges: the entry of large-scale extractive industries, despite the ban on, despite the social distancing, and they still came in. And then there was this prevention of mobility amongst people to go out and come in. So even before the total lockdown took place, the people from the cities who lost jobs have had to return to the villages and participate in the reactivation of a traditional lockdown, meaning that historically indigenous peoples made a lockdown to prevent the entry of diseases, especially in the 1800s, from lowland Christians who were being forced to come up, and that contributed in the defense of land when people from the outside were prevented from coming in. In the same way as at present, they disallowed the entry of large-scale extractive industries, but still they forced themselves in. So we were faced by human interventions and the pandemic. The activation of age-old preservation of food, which means that the harvest now will be next year's supply, was reactivated. Hunting was limited to very few people because of the customary rule of lockdown. Only few will hunt, but he will distribute the hunted animal or plants to the members of the community. The egalitarianism, of course, reactivated, and it was taboo for any member of the community to go hungry because the resources are there.
Thank you, Sir Giovanni. Chrissy is raising her hand and would like to provide additional inputs. Chrissy, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Mylene, and also for the question. Just to share maybe some insights also from Indonesia. I was lucky enough to be asked to be a moderator for a sharing learning session with, I think Dewi from JKPP is also here, from those who had received COVID response funding from the GF-SGP program. And I'd like to share some insights then. 3 points. One community, maybe similarly to also what Giovanni was sharing, considering that during the lockdown, some industries ceased to operate. So there were some indigenous people who were finally able to take over their land and plant vegetables and plant crops, and they were able to have food security. The question, though, now that things are going back to normal, will there be now a conflict for those who have taken over the land and when these industries start operating again? So that's one question. I think in Indonesia, the presentations from Aman and from others that were there as well, from indigenous groups, were that the youth had started coming back because there were no other jobs in the cities. They were relearning their indigenous knowledge about traditional ecological knowledge. Also in Indonesia, learning also about the traditional art. There was a young man, I knew his father, he was a puppet, you know, wayang in Indonesia, it's the like shadow puppets. His art, he was a puppet maker, and he made the puppets for the presidents of Indonesia, several generations of presidents. And his son was not eager to learn his craft. During the lockdown, they were together, and he finally developed an interest for his father's craft. And
yeah, Chrissy is
the youth are also more digitally adept. He was online materials about, they were able to assist his learning and passing over knowledge. I'm sorry, was it?
Yeah, you were breaking a bit, but I think the audience got your message that the pandemic was both brought threats and opportunities. So thank you very much, Chrissy. Your face is still freezing. So if it's possible, I will now give the floor to Miss Esther for her question.
Thank you, Marlene. I'm Esther Penunia from the Asian Farmers Association. I'm always interested in the intergenerational and the gender dynamics in enterprises. So I would like to ask every presenter, because, for example, I observed that in the presentations of some pictures, all the pictures were men, but the presentation of our friend here, the pictures are all women. So my question is, in the enterprises that you have showed, what are the roles of the women and the men and the youth? Do they have roles? Do they have involvement in these enterprises? And if so, what are these? Thank you.
Okay, so please take it away. Miss Esther, sorry for that, anyone from the panel, please volunteer.
Yeah, it is part of our intrinsic philosophy to always include the participation of the youth, especially that they are the future inheritors of the forests. So in the case of honey gathering, they are the primary. Malalakas. They have the strength to climb up to the ridge and the reefs in these mountains around them, and then the processing would be done by women. And of course, the pricing is always a decision of an intergenerational. Include my labor as a youth who gathered the honey, and include that in the price determination, and the women who had been there all the while to process the product are also there. And not only are elders' role significant, because there is always this ritual or Thanksgiving that you talk to the forests, and also you are the spokesperson for the forests because they cannot talk. And in that sense, the intimacy or the kinship relations of gathering honey asserts that kinship relation between nature and the people as custodians to nature.
Thank you very much, Sir Giovanni. And if I'm not mistaken, Miss Chrissy would like to add. Miss Chrissy, if you could make it quick. Thank you.
Yes. I'll try with the video on, and if it's still spotty, I'll turn it off. So I think the pandemic, which highlighted the value of health, really brought to center stage the role of women in many, many countries, because it's the women also who take care of those who are sick, the women who are processing the medicinal plants, the women who know where they are. And there was a resurgence of this, especially in Indonesia and in other countries. And even for those women who had become landless, especially in the case in Lombok in Indonesia, They had become landless, but they planted even in the pots around their houses, even in their backyards, to bring back the traditional medicine for their own health security and also for economic revenues for their families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chrissy. And to end this Q&A on a lighter note, I know that you're not supposed to have favorites, but could you please select one of your products and 3 words to describe them so that you could encourage everyone here and online to buy them? Who would like to take the first spot?
Any product that
just one? Yeah, any product.
ค่ะให้เลยนะ ก็คิดว่าถ้าเลือกในสีขาเนี่ยก็จะเป็นเสื้อเชซูโมนะคะเชซูโมเนี่ยมันเป็นเสื้อที่มีรูดเดยเนี่ยมันมาจากไร่หมูเวียนเนาะแล้วก็รูดเดยเนี่ยมันเป็นประวัติที่เกี่ยวกับผู้หญิงแล้วก็เด็กด้วยนะคะเพราะว่าปักเกยอนเนี่ยมีความเชื่อว่ารูดเดยเนี่ยเป็นสัญลักษณ์ของสมุนไพรของเด็กแล้วก็สมุนไพรผู้หญิงแล้วก็สมุนไพรสำหรับคนที่อยู่กับไร่หมูเวียนแล้วก็เครื่องประดับด้วยนะคะ
That was a long pitch, Nora Airy.
โหค่อนข้างยาว For me I will choose Chesumo or the black t-shirt, no, because that pattern is including the bead. I'm not sure you call it just here, the white bead that you put on the cloth that represent women and also represent the health of the baby, because how to say, you can find this in the rotational farming, no, so this represent both the mother and the children. So she picked that one.
Yeah, go to their website of AIPP if you want to know more. Next is Sanat Beck. Please make it quick.
Okay, so I would select our walnut because it's from the unique walnut forests and which is collected by our local mountain communities.
Thank you, Sanat Beck. Sir Giovanni?
I would choose the honey because women said that do not have the honey process because it's for health, wealth, or wisdom and peace. The gathering of honey made peace between the triadic provinces that share the common space.
Oh,
that's honey.
Yeah.
So it's not only about health and wealth or wisdom, but it's also about the peace that it
promotes.
That it promoted.
Yes.
Amongst tribes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Giovanni. And last but not the least, Chrissy, just one.
I won't choose rattan and I won't choose cinnamon because those are the ones we presented in my presentation. I choose sago or sagu in Indonesian. It's a palm tree where the pith is used for carbohydrates for many indigenous people as a staple crop. But now rice has largely taken over most of our diets. But we did bring some now innovated into a brownie crisp. Sagu brownie crisp. Please enjoy it with Dewi and with Dazzle and whoever brought it with us from Indonesia. So sagu is my product. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Let's give them a round of applause and I give the floor back to Ms. Femi.
Yes, this is just a short summary of our recommendations coming out of this session. And I would ask to share our slide. Thank you very much to all our speakers, panelists, and all those who have come here to participate physically, even though it's late, and also online. We were able to draw quite a bit of number of people. Thank you for joining us online. Here are the recommendations to enable successful community enterprise initiatives in forested landscapes. We'll wait for the slide. Processing. All right, so we were able to draw from the very good concrete examples from our speakers, from Giovanni Reyes, thank you very much, from Sanat Beck, from Chrissy Guerrero online, and from Nora Airy and P. Thank you so much for for helping us to put together a set of recommendations that we can also leave with this Congress. And these are, the first is to involve local communities in the sustainable management and use of forest ecosystems through community forest management, through sustainable use management, indigenous forest management, and ancestral domain management. Address and have concrete programs to address land insecurity, concerns that hamper food sovereignty and livelihood insecurity, to address unfair trade and market rules and practices, and to transform national laws and policies that are operationalizable and accessible by local communities, indigenous peoples, women and entrepreneurs, and community forest enterprise or forest and farm producer organizations. A third recommendation is to recognize the role and knowledge of indigenous women, motivate them, and facilitate support programs and initiatives to have platforms for them and their enterprising initiatives. Women, as Norari said, women can determine their life if they are at the center of decision-making and their economic decisions. Intergenerational, encourage and promote, support intergenerational learning to encourage the continuity of traditional wisdoms, encourage the youth to engage and thrive with their communities with the practice of these indigenous knowledge systems and practices. Promote and support regional learning and knowledge exchange systems, particularly best participatory practices that build on key elements of successful enterprise models: collective, sustainable, guaranteed application of participation and inclusion, traceable, and quality products and production processes. Finally, provide access to financing and innovate schemes to improve its accessibility and reach directly to the community forest enterprises. And a number of them are still or are in remote communities without bureaucracy and are culturally sensitive. Self-financing and self-support mechanisms can also be enhanced through the solidarity and network support to the enterprises and people's organizations. And sometimes linkages and bridging support, such as marketing and promotion, transport, and digital infrastructure may be catalytical. These are our recommendations from this session. Thank you so much for being with us, and have a good evening, have a good day for those who are with us from the other parts of the world online. Thank you so much.